Welcome to part 8 of the American Revolution. Now we're going to take a look at the Southern Offensive. After the disaster of Saratoga and the loss of Philadelphia, King George III decides that maybe he'll just shift his focus to the south. And he's got a lot of reason to believe that he'll be more successful down there because, well, in the south, at least as a percentage of the population, there is more loyalist support, right? Unfortunately, he also has reached his wit's end with this whole thing, and he's suffering from fits of absolute rage. So the decisions he makes are really rage-based. I kind of equate him to Kylo Ren, right? He's having his Kylo Ren moment. Now, a lot of times this has been attributed to the possibility of him having porphyria, right, which is a royal disease which can cause anxiety and paranoia and hallucinations. But more recent research has actually put forth the theory, with a lot of support, that he probably actually suffered from acute bipolar disorder, right? And this can be seen by his writings, because when he was unwell, his writings would become really long and elaborate compared to when he wasn't having one of his fits of mania, right, bipolar-based mania. One example of this, at one point, he wrote a sentence that was over 400 words long that only had 8 verbs in it, right? So at this point, he's definitely having some kind of rage-based fit because he undermines his own authority down there from the very beginning. You know, he goes and he moves to the southern offensive because he thinks, I can get more support down there, but then he undermines his goodwill with the people. For example, he orders that the Royal Navy bombard coastal cities, because what better way to tell you that your king loves you than to have his navy bombard your town, right? He also orders Marines to make landings and destroy coastal cities that aren't destroyed by the bombardment. Because what better way to tell you that your king loves you than for him to come in and have Marines burn your house down, right? But it gets worse. He also makes deals with the local Native Americans to attack the colonial settlements. Nations like the Creek there in the south began attacking colonial settlements with the blessing of George III. Because what better way to tell you that your king loves you than to have the neighbors attack you, right? It still gets worse still. He also tries to recruit slaves. He puts out there the promise that once the war is over and that the British crown, has reasserted its authority over its colonies, it's also going to eradicate slavery, so you need to rise up against your masters, right? What better way to tell you that your king loves you than to have your king have, remember this, look at this from their perspective, your property kill you. So this shift to the south did take time. Now, granted, on December 29, 1778, the British did take the Georgian port of Savannah, but pretty much in 1778 and 1779, the war is pretty quiet while the British retool, reorganize, and set their sights on the largest port in the south, which is Charleston, right? Now, initially, Charleston was actually called Charlestown after King Charles II, but they renamed themselves during the war, during the American Revolution. They decided they didn't want their town named after a king, so they took the W out and made it all one word, and somehow that made that not named after the king anymore. I'm not quite sure how that works, but there you are. Okay. So the British are going to, in 1780, take 10,000 troops under the command of General Henry Clinton and put Charleston under siege. Why isn't it under the command of General William Howe? Well, remember how he didn't make that advance from New York to help General Burgoyne? He's going to get fired for that. And now the armies in the colonies are under the command of General Henry Clinton, right? So you have 10,000 troops under General Henry Clinton, and he is going to capture Charleston, South Carolina. He's going to place the city under siege in March of 1780, and on May 12, 1780, the city will finally fall, and 5,000 colonial troops will be captured, right? Another big surrender, kind of a Saratoga for the British without some of the additional implications of it. After Clinton captures Charleston, he himself will actually return to New York City and stay there for the rest of the war. I don't know, it's maybe he hung out with Howell too long, and he'll place control of the armies to capture the South under his most competent general, General Charles Cornwallis. So in 1780, things in the South are looking pretty bad for the colonists. I mean, they lost Charleston because of that large surrender. They are extremely outnumbered there in the South as far as troops go. And Horatio Gates and his army is going to be sent down there to alleviate the situation. Now, even George Washington will say Horatio Gates isn't really that great of a commander, and he tells the Continental Congress, I don't think it's a good idea to send him down there, right? Now, by this time, Benedict Arnold's gone, right? His treason has taken place, and he has fled. So Gates doesn't have Arnold's planning to rely on. But Continental Congress says, well, no, Horatio Gates, our guy. I mean, he did great. He's the hero of Saratoga. That's what he's being called at this point, right? So he moves south to take on Cornwallis's troops. And on August 16th, 1780, he will face Cornwallis in South Carolina at a place called Camden. The Battle of Camden will take place. And Horatio Gates is going to get trounced at Camden. The commander of the forces in the field are going to be led by a lieutenant colonel by the name of Banastre Tarleton. And Banastre Tarleton is a ruthless cavalry commander, right? His tactics are hyper aggressive. Matter of fact, ultimately to the point that he'll actually get in trouble with the British military command down the road for it, right? But one of Tarleton's favorite tactics is when he sees troops are fleeing is to have his cavalry draw sabers and chase fleeing troops down and hack them down from behind, right? He would do this, for example, to General Thomas Sumter's forces there at Fishing Creek, and he completely annihilated them. Only Sumter himself managed to escape, right? He would get the nickname of Bloody Tarleton. And if you were to be given Tarleton Quarter, that meant that you were surrendering, but you had no belief that you were going to survive. Because to Tarleton, surrendered troops, you had to take care of them, so it was easier to just kill them, right? So ultimately, and the reason why I bring this up is that in the pivotal battle in the South, that tactic is going to be used against them. For Horatio Gates, in this defeat at Camden, he's going to embark on a retreat with his men, and when his men stop retreating after a couple miles, Gates keeps going. He retreated all the way to Philadelphia, and after that, he's going to get fired, and he's going to get replaced with Nathaniel Greene.